5 seconds to go. Start. The results of the polls in 4 states announced on Sunday provide intimations of at least 4 tectonic shifts in our polity. One from cynicism about the electoral process prevalent, especially though not exclusively among the urban middle classes and youth, to a renewed faith in it. 2. From identity politics to one that address the concerns and aspirations of the larger community of citizens. 3. From populism to performance as the litmus test for parties. And 4. From the high command approach to run parties to one that is more federal and participative in character. The high voter turnout in all the states with youth and especially women in the forefront is a clear indication that hope in elections as a harbinger of change has prevailed over despair generated by the use of money and muscle power to win them. That hope cuts across all classes, castes, and religious communities. Such a massive exercise of the franchise nails the widespread assumption that voters fed up to their gills with a skewed political system would stay away from polling booths. Noteworthy in this regard is the abysmally low percentage of those who opted for nota, none of the above, on the EVMs. The highest was 3.08% in Chhattisgarh and the lowest was 0.63% in Delhi. Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh registered 1.92% and 1.9% respectively. The electorate seems to have regarded Nota as a wasted vote, one that would not allow them to make difference. Seldom has the dance of democracy been more enthralling. Voter preferences also indicate trends that deviate from those prevalent in the past. The impressive victory of the BJP and the even more humongous one of the fledgling Aam Aadmi Party would not have been possible without support from all sections of the electorate. That includes Muslims, OBCs, and Dalits, traditional vote banks of the Congress, and other parties like SP and BSP that swear by secularism and social justice. Identity politics, rooted in the sense of victimhood of these communities, appears to have lost much of its potential to garner votes. It might still retain some potential in states with large minorities and in those where caste is more deeply entrenched. Broadly speaking, however, the electorate today has other fish to fry. It seeks empowerment through education and acquisition of skills and not through tokenism. The UPA government's populist measures, ones that it projected as entitlements, have not yielded a rich harvest of votes either. All parties in the fray did resort to them, but BJP did this in a calibrated manner to ensure that only deserving sections of the population were the beneficiaries, while the Congress spread the net much wider, especially in Rajasthan. Moreover, BJP in both Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh paid heed to last mile implementation of welfare schemes, something the Congress failed to do in states it governed. There was no mystery about what rankles the voters. From the badlands of Bhind in northern Madhya Pradesh to the colorful bazaars of Pushkar in central Rajasthan, The neighborhood barber, the local carpenter, and the small farmer would angrily reel off to the exact rupee the rise in prices for onions, potatoes, and ghee over the last 5 years. On the campaign trail, talk of inflation trumped other hot bottom issues such as corruption and unemployment. While it is hard to reduce the complexities of an Indian election to a single factor, it seems inflation played a decisive and yet underappreciated role in the Congress's resounding defeat in the state elections held over the past month. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has now presided over one of the worst inflation episodes in the post independence history of India. With consumer prices rising at an average annual pace of 10% over the last 5 years, India has never seen inflation so high for so long or at such an unlikely time. India now sticks out as an outlier in a world where many countries are worried about deflation. Historically, India's inflation rate was lower than the emerging market average, but it is currently double the average. For decades, India's ranking among nations by inflation rate had hovered in the mid 60s, but lately it has plunged to 142 out of 153 emerging markets. The inflation problem says a lot about what has gone wrong with India's economic model under the Congress party. The Singh government has let fuel and fertilizer subsidies spin out of control and bought wheat and rice at artificially high prices to appease large farmers. It has been building an expensive welfare state rather than pursuing reforms to boost productivity, which would allow for higher growth without rising prices. The government has also been pushing up wages through, for example, measures to guarantee employment to rural workers. Over the past 5 years, rural wages have been rising at an annual pace of 15% faster than productivity growth and higher than in any other Asian country. Now, India appears to be catching the Latin American disease of rising prices and falling growth. As workers come to expect higher prices, they increasingly demand higher wages, leading to a destructive wage price spiral. Indian households expect consumer prices to rise another 13% next year, according to a survey of inflationary expectations by the Reserve Bank of India. One reason Indian voters are turning so sharply against Congress is that its policymakers do not seem to understand the depth of the inflation problem. Early on, they dismissed inflation as a temporary threat or a threat only to food prices, even as prices started to rise in other areas such as services. In recent years, government officials posited that inflation is a natural reflection of rising demand in a prospering economy, a view that may be commonplace but does not square with the facts. Stop.